Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of NF Twins. Today is the 31st of December, so we want to do a recap on how AI actually impact our lives, and of course, maybe give you one or two gold nuggets that actually helped us in our daily life, and that might help you as well. Mark, are you ready to fucking rock?
Fuck yeah, my boy. Let's start about the AI. Lucas, what's the big... All right. First off, what's the AI that has impacted you the most this year?
ChatGPT, for sure.
All right.
Well, actually a mix, right? Because for work we're using different models, but then because we're building an AI AI website, AI dating website. But on a personal level, I would say ChatGPT. Right now, I would say I'm using more ChatGPT than Google. So which is for me a big change. But I want to go I'm sure you hear it all the time on the internet. I replaced ChatGPT with Google, but I want to go into more detail. So, for example, when you start a company, things, especially in the beginning, if you don't have money for an accountant, you have to do all the accounting yourselves. So, I want to go in detail where it helped us. So, one of the things is company creation, right? So, if you do shareholder agreements, etc., it can give you a really good base. So, the other day when we had to go to notary, we had to do changes to become independent directors of the company, and we needed a draft. Normally, back in the day, you would go to a lawyer to get these changes,
or maybe you have good Googling skills, but then you're still basically hoping that this is the fucking go-to.
Also, you would probably end up on a website where they're trying to sell you a template, and then you, as a not skilled person, will be like, okay, yeah, I guess I'm paying now 10, 15 euros for that template. With ChatGPT, you can easily create that. So, for example, what we did, we gave it certain requirements that we know that it needs to become an independent director in a German company, which was really, really nice. And then we got feedback from the notary, which we included into the process in the prompt. And in the end, all good. Notary signed it, and it all worked out. Well, let's see, of course. Another thing, which is not only on the creating the company, but later in the maintenance, would be accounting. Okay. Have you ever done accounting? If you haven't, let me put it this way. There's so many confusing questions like, oh, why do you want to use, was this income from that? Or how do you do with VAT? So basically with a VAT, each country in Europe needs to, you put the VAT there. You put it there every quarter, every year, and ChatGPT helped us so much that I can just go, okay, ChatGPT, now it's the form. Let's go walk through it one by one. And of course, when I feel okay, and I always ask can you explain why is the case? Also, give me examples, because sometimes it might be hallucinating. So I'm always want to double check to make sure everything is correct. And yeah, that's for me, Mark. What are the two biggest impactors it had for you on your life?
All right. Two things. In the last year, I learned how to code, basically no code. So for me, it was also ChatGPT because of the following things. I use ChatGPT to explain code to me. Since I'm using no code, but some of the code snippets are still regular code. So I need to understand what it does, or I sometimes use it to say, hey, I need this code to do X and Y. Please do the following. Didn't work. I was like, hey, can you refine it? It didn't work, etc. So basically going through a loop to then finally get a code snippet that I can use on my website or app. So this was super, super helpful. So ChatGPT for me, also the crown. Obviously, spend the $20, so worth it, especially if you have it for a business. Maybe even run it over the company account so you can get your VAT back later on as an expense. I think that was the biggest impact, the thing with the biggest impact for me, because even 4.0 is just amazing. You can do also market research. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it hallucinates or has sources that are not credible, but it's fine. It should just give you, it should be a tool for you. It shouldn't be, this is God. It should be like, look, this is a great tool for me to improve the way, how fast I am, how fast you can iterate.
Yeah.
Because more or less, for the most ideas, you just need to have a general, hey, this is the direction I want to go. For example, now we're doing research on some markets, like market size in Germany, for example, let's say cleaning market, like cleaning businesses, etc. Then it gives you some resources. Then you can click on the resources if it actually exists, and then from there you can go in a specific direction. Because sometimes with Googling, it's not as great, or you end on the classical, I don't know, search terms or websites, which I don't like.
which I also like is kind of fascinating because I see now Google more as an adjacent, not adjacent, I would say like the main course is ChatGPT and the side dishes is Google. So for example, I have ChatGPT to like give me most of the information that I require for like, for example, market research, maybe for the podcast, anything else. And then when I have something specific, I can click on, because ChatGPT 4.0 gives you also the links. Then I might just do like some specific Google explanations, like I Google like, okay, market size of XYZ. So I can go different sources. Also, this brings me back because I want to talk also which model had the biggest impact for this year, right? Because of course, the O1, or what is the one that can actually write longer and thinks longer?
A01.
Yeah, O1. I think this one is personally, it didn't have a huge impact on me so far. I'd rather use 4.0 because it has access
Or
to the
Mini.
internet.
It's also great.
Because it's like, yes, it thinks better and then like process it and like basically can build, I guess, more complex like line of thought because it keeps like thinking, reasoning, and then also they have multiple agents that work in it, which I think is cool. But on my personal day to day, I'd rather use 4.0 because of the access to the internet, and it's good enough, for example, also for articles in SEO optimizing, etc. I think that's
All right.
also one of these things.
Second AI that had a massive impact on me, that's basically the models that we're using for our AI, because we have an AI website, multiple actually, in AI
Yeah.
dating. Doesn't matter, we don't have to go into details. But all these models that we use for image generation as well as text generation, super, super impactful. For me, that made a huge role because obviously day to day I spend time with it and creating the websites and then implementing it. All this stuff, super, super cool. And in general, I want to say not only which AI model, but just the concept. For example, the concept of prompting was super impactful just because you have to think about in the future proof. If you really, really, really want to 10x your output, you need to use these kind of assistants, right? AI assistants somehow. With ChatGPT, Llama, you name it, you can use it. At some point, also, I guess Siri will have it. I think in Europe it doesn't, right? Because there's some regulation or whatever. But in the US, you can use it. So the better you can ask your questions or be more detailed, the better it will be, right? And same with if you have workflows, if you want to have more complex things. At some point, I mean, we already mentioned, talked about AI agents, etc., how that will impact the lives of many, especially in companies or startups that can now do things that 30 people would do before alone. So these
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
things are super, super cool and super
like the
impactful,
AI
I think.
support agents, right? So that's also like one of the things we talked about. That yes, people are saying, yeah, it will replace. We also talked in one of the episodes, I think like 3 weeks ago, that AI agents will substitute entire departments, which will happen. But I think it's just like it's not there yet, but it will get in there for sure, which is kind of super super interesting. But for us in 2024, it was more like talking to an expert in any field, but I think it's really, really important that you still have to check. So you have to know a little bit overview so you can ask certain questions. Because like sometimes it yes hallucinates, right? For example, the other day I was going through a contract and said, hey, could you please give me all
Yeah.
all red flags or potentially red flags that
Well,
this
I think it
contract might
might
have.
also be like a prompt thing, right? Because maybe
Of
it's just
course,
oversensitive.
exactly, that's the thing. Like, but then I compared the notes that they had with the actual contract, and it was not even close. So I was like, one was like more like that. Basically, the intermediate would have like more benefits, but in the end, it was actually equal. So it's like things like this. It is good to get a direction, but in the end, you still have to check the original document, which at the beginning I didn't do, and that was because it was like 16 pages. But yeah, it helped a lot there. So that's something that you have to be careful that you check both for sure.
Hey, Lucas, what's the underdog that you thought? I mean, we now mentioned so far the big boys. Everyone has used ChatGPT this year. If
Yeah.
not, they should definitely use it. And what are the ones that you didn't expect to be great, but you use them, you're like, damn,
Okay,
boy,
I have a
pretty
different
nice.
one. I have an underwhelming one. Okay. I
Okay.
want to start with the underwhelming one, and that's for me Stable Diffusion 3. It's less because of the results, because the results are really, really nice. I mean, they're good, but it works better than like SDXL, etc., in terms of following the prompt. So
Okay,
especially
Lucas, what
when
is
you
it? Explain what is
Stable
that.
Diffusion is an image generation model, and it's the latest one. I think it was which was released in June or July. I think now it's also 3.5 out. And the problem is it costs like between 3 cents or 6 or 7 cents per image that you generate, which is a
Enough, yeah.
lot. Yeah, because like other ones, you pay spending like less than a cent on like SDXL, etc., which is like a huge difference. And the images are not much better. The only thing it does much better handle text in an image. So you can say like, oh, do a neon sign in the background, which has NF twins, um, like we're having now ones. So for this, it works very well. But for other things, it's not like 20x better that it explaining the price. Also with of the because they have certain um not regulations but like terms so you can use it, so you and they don't allow it, so basically it's bad for the developers, like it's not worth it, and that's for me the disappointment or underwhelming of the year for sure for me in AI space. For you, Mark?
Honestly, I think the surprise winner for me was a text model that we use on our app website because it's fucking crazy cheap. So we switched from one model to the other, and we basically, well, cut our expensive by 20 times.
Yeah,
So
the
that was
chat model,
insane.
yeah.
So like 5% of the cost that we originally had, which is
Also,
really, really cool. And the performance was still the same.
actually, I think we sped up the how many words, because it says tokens per seconds, right? I think we even sped this
Yeah.
up. The only problem, which is kind of fascinating, is because we're on a website where you have different providers, and depending on like the usage, it will switch between providers. The thing is, some of these providers, even though they use the same model or host the same model, are 20x more expensive. So that's like for me crazy what kind of spreads certain companies do by hosting these models, right? So they go on distribution models and say, hey, a distribution website, like, hey, I am hosting a model, I don't know, let's say, yeah, Llama, okay? Llama, and then you can use it, and per use, you, of course, build. And then there are like 5, 6 different providers, and they charge different prices. And that's for me like crazy how the spread of these are. Big,
No,
big market also. I think that's one of
yeah,
the big
exactly.
markets as well.
I don't know. I don't want to know how you can actually do that. You can host a thing there. It'd be
I
fucking
think you
amazing.
can. I think you can verify for it, and then you can host it. And yet, I think I'm sure they're running all over AWS because that's everybody does
Yeah,
it.
or
But it's
Azure or whatever it
I
is.
I think that's also probably one of the things that at the beginning everybody thought that that wouldn't be a market, because people are like, hey, why would you ever? How would these markets develop? Because like it would be only three big or one or two big providers, let's say OpenAI, and they host it themselves. So you don't even host that model on a different server. So these platforms might not actually ever make money. And now you see it here, thousands of different models. They are fine tuned for, let's say, role play or for
I mean,
uh,
even what we mentioned already in some of the episodes, I think that more local models, right? The smaller, the better, so that you can run them on local machines because that's the lowest cost you can have. Because end of the day, just use this bad boy and you just a
yeah.
little bit of computation power, not even any cost that running it.
I think that's something I'm still looking forward to in 2025. So the TMMs, so LLMs, TLMs. So LLMs, of course, large language models, and then the TLMs are the tiny language models. So as Mark mentioned, so that on the mobile device, you will have these models running. So I guess Apple
Oh,
has it already some, but I'm looking forward to like Llama, etc., bring TLMs or anybody to make them open source, because in the end, then it's when things get really, really interesting, because then you can run an app and have it like use it locally. So first of all, that's super good for privacy, which is really, really important, right? Because you don't want your data to like potentially be used for training. Because like if you use, of course, some models don't use it, but for example, OpenAI, they say, hey, you're agreeing to that if
well,
you're
I mean,
using
if you
ChatGPT.
download Llama and run it on your own server, it's not going to
Local,
be used for
exactly.
training.
No, no, exactly. But like that's what I'm saying with other models. So Llama, different thing. But that's why I'm saying if they're bringing out the TLM, that would be perfect. They can run it. But otherwise,
But this is the thing for TLM. I'm also thinking about it will be it will only be available if you have the processing power on the mobile, right, on the device. So you need to have different chips as well. I mean, iPhone already introduced some of these chips, but
actually, Snapdragon already introduced it last year. So they already started last year with the.
but is it big enough, Lucas? Is it big enough? That's the question.
That's a thing. We have like it's like a adoption curve, right? It's like at the beginning of games when smartphones came out. Like when hits like the majority of people like a certain chip, so it makes sense to have like multiplayer games like MMOPG games.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, okay, it makes sense to have them on the mobile device because it hits, for example, PUBG Mobile. People have the requirements to play that. That's why there also was like for a long time PUBG
but I mean,
Mobile Lite.
Yeah, people exist, people create it, and then they fly off the wheel all of a sudden because now everyone has the ability to do so. But anyways, coming back to it. So your prognosis, Lucas, what is your prognosis for next year? What are you looking forward to? You already mentioned a little bit, tiny models, etc. For those people who don't know what a tiny model right now is, I think one of the examples is Apple has emojis or something that you can create. And this is running on an AI that is run locally. So that's one example, for example. For me, I would be super, super cool to see that if they can do it then finally with emails, etc. on the phone. So you have everything, you basically set it up, maybe with voice assistant, with Siri, and then you do everything connected. I think this would be super cool to run. Also, obviously, it needs to be run locally. And I think it doesn't take that much crazy processing power once you have all these flows down. And hopefully, Apple will have an integration then for developers because that's fucking cool as shit.
Well, for me personally, one of the things I like it. Also, some points like, for example, email. You need anyways internet to send emails, so I think you technically wouldn't need to run this locally, but it's of course much better. Another point is for me where TLM could do great is translation in translation apps, etc., because they are very, very specific, very niche. Well, they don't have to. They're very focused on one thing, so you don't have to require so big models. Another thing that I'm looking forward to, or hoping, let's put it this way, hoping, is that the regulation in Europe changes for AI. Because as you can see right now, I think Apple probably will not roll out, or so far it has not rolled out the AI features. And also that because the regulations is so strong right now that like it basically doesn't make sense if you're building cutting edge AI products or companies in Europe because it's so, I guess it's like almost illegal, let's put it this way, which makes it hard. Whereas in the US, it's they're much freer and open to that. So I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to and hoping that will change, or at least the regulations, they will not regulate it even harder because otherwise, like Europe might have a problem with catching up with it. Another things, what I'm really looking forward to is ChatGPT's development or agents, so agentic use cases where I can personally use it myself. Because right now it's like the process is more like I'm always in the loop, and it helps a lot to like generate ideas because it's like a sparring partner which has a lot of knowledge inside. Well, basically, it's an expert in any field if you use it right, which is really, really nice. So you can just do that, and if that as soon as it also integrates with other apps, I'm really, really pumped for that. So you could just say, hey, please create me ad campaign for Meta and create all the ads, etc. So it's like does first it, because you already talked about your product, it knows what your website is, knows the product. Then it will pull data from use cases or other ads from competitors, from, for example, Facebook ad library. Then it can create and can create an ad similar to it, so like a ad creative as well as ad text, so A/B testing. Let's say 5 different texts, and then it will just run all of it automatically. Of course, there are startups who are going that the way, but I haven't seen that, and I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, that's one of the things I'm really, really looking forward to.
All right,
yeah.
That was all right,
everybody.
One, Lucas. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we got everything off the chest for this year. So everybody, I hope you're having a good year or a good start. So happy new year, of course. And yeah, catch you in the next one. Catch you in the next year, 2025. Everybody, peace. We're out.
All right, peace out.